Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Hope everybody's doing good. Karl Bryan coming at you. I am here continuing to be Sans Road Dog, although I tell you, he's texting me and he's calling me. He's desperate to get back on the show. But I told him, look, man, you got to let me do a little bit of an interview series. So we're continuing with the interview series, but none other than Road Dog wanted me to say a big hi to everybody. So hi. Thank you for listening. And on that note, I am here today, once again, a distinct pleasure of mine, and I believe to be yours here very shortly. I've got none other than one of my superstar clients and coaches. He was a John Maxwell founding partner way back in, I think it was 2011. He's trained over 100 sales reps in the media/advertising field. He's currently got a team of a little bit under 50 coaches with him utilizing our software. So he's building himself a healthy team of coaches. So without further ado, I've got none other than one BJ O'Neal with me. BJ, right there.
Hey, Karl, good to be here, man.
You bet. How's it going, BJ? What's happening?
It is going well. It has been a good season, and looking forward to next week to see you and others in Mexico.
There we go. Business Coaching Mastery in Cancun, folks. Be there or be square. Although if you're not already coming, it is officially sold out, and we got a record crowd coming. But that note, BJ and I will be seeing each other. But BJ, let's get straight into it.
Yes, sir.
You've been around forever and a day, man. How long you been coaching/consulting?
In one way or the other, and I say that meaning that in the beginning, I don't know that I would exactly called it coaching, but about two decades, kind of backed into it simply because someone asked me, hey, would you show me how you did that? And that really is kind of how things started.
Is that it? Like literally somebody asked, like, how did you do that? And you're like, oh.
Yeah, how do you do that? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll tell you. And then all of a sudden someone asked one day if I paid you, and I'm like, so you'll pay me for what I know? Like that's a thing. And so, that was back in the just like, hey, honey, I can make a couple of bucks by telling someone what I think that I know. And and then over the years, you figure things out, like riding a bike, I guess.
Yeah, got a little bit better at it.
Yeah. So because you fall off the bike, that's how you get better at it.
Yeah, no joke. And you're better to fall off a tricycle versus a
right,
like a motorbike. So sometimes starting slow and finishing fast,
that's
where
right.
a lot of people start fast and then finish slow. I have found, but anywho. Okay, so tell me, so you've been at this for, better part of 2 decades. Not many people can say that. Give me no doubt there'll be a few of them, but give me an takeaway after all those years of helping business owners.
Yeah, so, I remember the first couple of clients that I'm sure was a mess, the beginning of things, and I had zero plan, zero like real trajectory. I was just kind of just doing it, and probably safe to say even winging it to some degree. And I would say today you're probably not going to be that successful winging it. You got to have a solid plan, and one that, in my opinion, others may disagree or see it differently, but it has to be flexible enough. Not that you're going to change it all the time, but we learn stuff along the way that you want to have a flexible plan. So having something that's really, a solidified, this is my game plan, this is my action plan, this is what I'm going to do every day, every week, every month, every quarter throughout the year, and I'm going to stick to it. It's so important. Bigger than the plan, though, is consistency. And that is whatever it is that you've said that you're going to go do is that you're going to go do it on the days that you don't want to do it, on the days that it's cold, it's rainy, no one's calling you back, it seems like nothing you tried worked. Like that's when you really have to do it. And, and that's life in general, probably, right? I mean, in most cases, but by and large, even in training a lot of salespeople, I love advertising, and I got an opportunity over the years to be a part of that. It's the same thing where every time you see somebody struggling, 9 times out of 10, they are not following through with some type of consistency. It's a yo-yo effect. When things are going great, they take their foot off the gas. When it's going poorly, they're, hiding under a rock. And that's just not going to make it work,
Love it. Love it. Love it. And couldn't agree more. And I think also you mentioned, I think I actually said this last week, but you got to not execute on ideas. You got to execute on plans. If you got a great idea, that means it would be worth a plan. And then ironically, the plan doesn't tend to be worth all that much because, again, what does Mike Tyson say? When you get punched in the mouth, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. But what you draw on is your training. So in this instance, what you draw on in business when you get punched in the mouth is your planning, right? So again, I think it's Dwight Eisenhower. He's got a quote, and it says, it's something to the effect of the plan being useless, but the planning being indispensable. So anyways, love that. Love that. Love that. Speaking of planning, so like lead gen, you're pretty talented at that. Tell me, what's your you're super consistent there. What's been your strategy and what works for you by way of lead gen?
Yeah, when it comes to getting clients and getting in front of business owners, we like to call it lead gen, right? But I like to call it, where am I going to add value? Where am I going to spend my time and my energy in building relationships? How am I going to build that rapport so that I get them to know me, to like me, and trust me? Those are not for the faint of hearted because that takes actual real work to do that, period. But when you do it, I don't care what the vehicle you use, but when you do it, I think that's where everything truly changes, right? Because when you have a focus on in solving a problem versus just getting a client, let getting the client be the byproduct of solving someone's problem. And so, but for me, over the years in getting clients, events have always been, I've done hundreds of events in one way or another. And when you're staying in front of a group of people and the value they bring, the expertise that you emit, the prominence that's created, there's just absolutely nothing like it. Yes, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, building partnerships with other people, but there's no doubt, in my opinion, that the relationships that you can bring through events. And by the way, you mentioned something. I don't know if others know who John Maxwell is or not. You can Google him. He's kind of become the godfather of all things leadership. Started following him in '96. Got an opportunity to be one of the first in his certification a long time ago. However, the very first event that he ever did, his very first one, less than 13 people showed up. Now here's a guy who now garnishes, millions of dollars for a speaking gig, can pack an entire arena out, but he didn't start that way. And there's an author, his name's John Acuff, and he always talks about you can't start in someone else's middle. And so to your point about doing 10 of them, you could not be more correct in that what you know from your 10th, your 15th, and your 20th versus the first few that you do is going to be dramatically different. And so you have to go into it with a realistic, mindset that says, I'm going to learn a lot of different things. And you know what? So if you screw the whole thing up your first 2 or 3, but you're going to learn and you're going to get better, and it'll change things. It really will. And it'll become like you're doing it like the back of your hand. So building those relationships, events are a huge one for me. Again, it's not for always everybody. I know some people get a little uneasy in front of 4 or 5, 10, 15 people, but I don't like hyperbole, but I will say that it tends to be game changing. And then when you move away from, and this may be controversial to some, and that's okay. I have found an entire career of not trying to sell someone. So you get away from the sales modality. I mean, look, we're always in a sales modality. I've got 3 kids, 23, 18, and 13. My 13-year-old girl, she sells me every day on getting ice cream. She loves ice cream. So selling is right. It's just a part of life. But I'm referring to the whole, no one wants to, to be sold kind of thing. And if you truly are interested in an individual and you really do care about them and what they're going through and listening with empathy, I don't care if they're a startup or if they, have a business that's 50 million. Everybody has opportunity for growth, or they're trying to solve something. But if you're so focused on just what's in it for me, I want to get a client, they're going to feel that. They're going to sense it. They really do. This is just human psychology, and that's creates an abrasion. That creates a wall. Anyway, I can go on and on about that, but by and large, value in building relationships, regardless of the channel, if you will, the lead gen channel, has to be for the forefront of it.
Yeah, that's, there's a saying, I don't know, something like needing nothing attracts everything. What do they call it? Commission breath, right? Like you got to be real careful, coming across. Hey, I just want to fill in a gap there. Some of the guys weren't because on the podcast, they didn't get the pre-show. So one of the things we were talking about in the pre-show, doing local live events, a new program we have called Local Legends. Just part of it is that if you're going to run local live events, you've got to run 10, is what I said and what BJ was referencing. The ones that don't have success, they run 1 or 2, and then they report back on how it went. And then they allow the success of event 1 or 2 to dictate whether or not they keep going. And what we say is, in business, you get what you deserve. And if you haven't done local live events for a consistent period of time, there's a debate to say that you don't deserve a great audience. The same way that John Maxwell started out, what did you say, 13 people at his first group? Guess what? He didn't deserve a huge audience then. Well, now he puts 13,000 people in a room. Yeah, I have no idea, but let's just call it that, right? Started with 13, and now he's packing out a stadium because he's got, he's got a body of work there. So anyway, but once you've done that 10th event, I think you're going to find that you get that compounding effect. So anyways, very good. Like it, but consistency wins over talent all day long and twice.
Always.
How long you been, speaking of you've been with us, how long you been with Focus.com?
2.5 years, 3 years, something around there. I don't know the exact number, but it's between that 2.5 to 3 year mark, maybe 3 years.
And what about the software? So tell me, how would you say, like for other coaches listening, how's the software work for you, or what do you see as a bit of a magic button, or does it work?
Oh yeah. So I for BJ, I can only speak for BJ. That the whole conversion of taking someone through where they aren't today to where they need to be and understanding. We'll call it just shifting their mindset. I would say that's probably has always been a challenge, or at least it was a challenge for me. Meaning, why would someone say, yes, BJ, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars every month or every year to help you? That was always a big challenge. And so utilizing the software itself in bigger than, you can call it the 100K challenge. You can call it whatever you want. It's taking people through this process and assessment to where what I have discovered is truly helping them have some aha moments. And if you're not familiar with the software enough, and if you're not used it enough, I cannot express more for myself what I've discovered in helping people to see something that they can't currently see inside their own business, by the way, and helping them to recognize, because what I have found, a lot of business owners, and I was one in the very beginning. I started my very first business as a kind of a test in 1994. The month, by the way, Carl, the month before my wife and I got married, which I would not necessarily use as premarital counseling advice for a young couple to start a business and get married at the exact same time. But that's just our story. Anyways, the challenge has always been, and I still think is today, where we think as humans, and certainly business owners, if I just get this one thing, whatever the one thing is, then boom, I'm going to have this like amazing success with growth. We saw this over the years when websites became a thing. oh, if we just got a website, we're going to be able to sell all kinds of stuff and our world's going to change. Or
Yeah.
when it was social media, we just need to get a Facebook page, or then it was an Instagram or whatever. Like all those things are necessary, but they're not one thing. Is very difficult to have dramatic growth. And so the software has enabled a coach and like myself to sit down with a business owner and methodically go through a simple process to be able for them to have some light bulbs, some jaw dropping moments, and some big eyes for them to recognize what small incremental percentage adjustments look like and what the word acceleration to profits can actually mean with simplicity.
Yeah.
And the visual representation to go along with that. I'm going to give you a quick example of something that happened just a couple of weeks ago with a guy who owns a gym in my local area, and he's opening another business, and he's in kind of my circle of influence through some other people. And we got to talking. I shared with him what I did. One thing led to another, and he's basically all but begging me to take him through the software. And so we did. We sat down, we go through a few things, and we get to talking about a drip campaign. And the short of it is, I asked them about what they currently do, and this is what they do. It's pretty standard for a gym. They pay a company $1,000 and to generate leads for them, and that company does a number of different things: text, email, phone call, whatever, to try to book them into a free class. Okay, and fairly standard stuff. So I said, well, how long does this process last? He said, well, about 10 days or so. I said, what do you mean 10 days? I'm like, what happens on day 11? He goes, well, nothing. I said, well, what do you mean, like it kicks back into gear or something? No, like that what they do lasts for the 11 to 10 days. So 11, do you guys take over and you send people on your list who's opted in? No. So you don't send anything to them after the 10th day at all? No. Yeah. I said, so do you understand the conversion of and I took into the whole drip campaign concept. I'll belabor the point of the kind of cells that you can get between the 5th and the 12th contact if you're engaging with them. And he stops and he just looks at me with a very glassed over look because it hit him. Yeah. It hit him on his own, like he realized what they're missing in their own business with leaving money on the table that they're actually paying for. Yeah. And so just that one little moment was just a huge aha that he couldn't wait to close his book and go run. His wife is his business partner too. And to share with her just this whole concept that we talk about, profit acceleration. So anyways, a long-winded answer to Carl, but it's not just software for me. It's not just, it really is a systematic approach to helping an individual who owns a business. Look, so many people, they're great people, but many of them are tradespeople. They understand HVAC, roofing, dog grooming. They're a dentist, but they don't really understand how to grow that. And when you're able to help them visually and just small little incremental shifts to get an aha and a light bulb, it changes the game as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thanks for the props, by the way. But that is basically, you've got 12. So you have 12 areas. Instead of hitting home runs, you hit a single, but you hit a single in 12 areas, and then it multiplies, and you get this compounding effect versus trying to hit a home run in a specific, digital marketing, et cetera. So anyways, sure. Love it. Love it. And by the way, you've got a pretty mean team of coaches underneath you. Like you're not just, you got the business, like the gym owner, but you are guiding a pretty mean team of coaches through the software. Yep. Where are you at? How many do you have again? What's the number?
It's just under 50. We're approaching 50. We're hoping to be there here soon. And that's been an amazing process, and love working with the team for sure.
Yeah, I love it. So you talk about adding value a lot. Like, could you give me like a real world example of adding value? Could you?
Yeah. So this is one of the things that I love, because I think that we try to talk too much with versus just actually doing things to relatably add value to business owners or in life in general. And I think it's a good just life practice to constantly have a heart and a desire to speak into people, add value, and so on. So recently, in just talking with a lot of people, I feel like what's missing is story. And what I mean by that is being able to truly, begin to visually and give imagination to help people to understand how to tell a story so that they can get bought in and lean into you more. Let me give you an example. And this is just this happened on Saturday. And so this just kind of came up because I'm always thinking about this kind of stuff and always talking about this kind of stuff. Kind of drives my wife nuts a little bit. Nevertheless, they go along with it. And so Saturday, I get an email. So we, my family and I, every year, sometimes a couple times a year, we go down to the Gulf of Mexico, the Panhandle of Florida for vacation. Okay, an area called 30A. It's kind of become like the Hamptons of the South now, and we've been going there for a long time before it was even, now it's popular. But I use typically the same online service to book my vacations and the places that we go. Okay, and that company's been down there for a very long time. Well, now as it's grown, super competitive. There's all kinds of people, Verbos and Airbnbs and new condos and the whole thing. All right. So I get this email from the service that I use, and the subject line of the email said, explore our new site. As if to think I'm sitting on a Saturday doing nothing and I'm so bored that all I want to do is to go explore someone's website. You chuckle because you know where this is going. And it's just a true story. And of course, I get annoyed quickly. I'm like, golly. But here's an example that you could take a story like that and tell a business owner, because they're going to understand. So if I was sitting across from a business owner, I don't care what size of business he has, we're having coffee at a coffee shop. I'm going to begin to add value to him and tell a story just like this to say, hey, I got this email. It was super uncompelling. And think about it. They spent all this time and energy to send this email out, and no one thought to say, hey, what would be a way that actually would add value to our email list that would solve a problem for them and help them in wherever they're at? Maybe something more about like, find your next vacation easier than ever before, or something that would jump out that actually would speak to me. And then I would turn it to say, how about you in your world? And could you say for sure that you and your team, if it is a team of 1 or a team of 10, that you spend an excellent amount of time verifying that the things that go into a subject line on your website, on a Facebook post, or whatever is so compelling that you know that it's directly connected to the hot button issues that are going along in your prospect's world? I would say that to them and then give them the story of the email that happened to me. Here's why. Because they're going to be able to visualize that, because they get emails every day too, personally. And they're probably bored from half the stuff that they get too. So when you begin to kind of to illustrate and give story and give vision and give imagination, these are the things that are moving people closer to you, buying into you, adding value. It's not salesy. It's an approach they want to know more about, and they want to hear you because you're making context to them and getting their brain to fire off emotionally to go, hey, we don't think about this, because the reality is, and Karl, you know this better than I do, they probably don't think about these things, which is the reason why they get stuck, or that they say things that don't work or whatever. And so that's what value really is. It's constantly finding a way to give them something that truly can help them where they are, even if it's tangible and or imagination, that helps them to know something more today than they knew yesterday, and they view you as the guide to get them there.
Nice. Okay, you just said a minute ago, get them to buy into you. I see your conversion is something you're talented at. That would be an understatement in my opinion. How do you get them to buy into you? Can you go deeper there?
Yeah. Again, my own perspective, and I will say there's a book by the name of Jeb. Was about 20 years old. Jeb Blunt. It's called "People Buy You," B-U-Y. And I personally think it's one of the best. Just no frills, straightforward. It talks about this very thing, and it was a light bulb for me, even though I was doing some of the things probably organically, just because it's just part of my nature. But if you first start in my view of trying to make sure, are there any things that I'm doing that I may come across that just follows the typical swarmy, salesy modality? And again, there's nothing wrong with those things inherently, but there's just so much of it. I want to determine, well, how can I get people to really pay attention to me? Well, part of it is just doing what everybody else is not doing. And so trying to shed away from just typical stuff that's just normal sales 101 that could potentially be friction or whatever. So that's kind of one thing. And that's a long conversation, as you know. But then the truly buying into is kind of goes back to even what I'm saying now is, number one, I think it starts from truly being able to understand and know what a business is actually going through, and listening with empathy and making the attempt to lean in and to show that you really care. First of all, you have to actually care. Like, you can't fake that. And people can sense it, especially today more than ever before. They can sense when you're not truly in it to win it, when you don't care about them. And so as you begin to do that, and you are with authenticity, truly caring about building a relationship with them, whether they could become a client next week or next year, or they never become a client. Because I think one of the most biggest misses for a coach to make is they make the assumption that that individual is probably not going to be a client, and then they now no longer care about building a relationship. Well, guess what? What if they were the connector to the next 2 clients that you're going to have? And that's what building an entire authentic network is all about, is not viewing everyone as just walking around like a dollar sign alone. And so it starts with the authenticity of relationship building and truly building, the care, so that they begin to see you, they want to know you, like you, and trust you more. And the authenticity is by far the bedrock of life, as far as I'm concerned. And they can sense it and they can feel it. So then, as you are engaging with them, and clearly we have to make a living, we want to build a clientele. I need to, you do, Carl, everyone does. But you begin to match what you offer to what they need. But you do it in such a way that it's less about selling on them or selling to them. It's more about engaging them to help them see how you can guide them to the solutions that they're looking for. And so all of that psychologically, and a lot of this, by the way, is literally psychology, and you need to learn that. You need to spend time. If anything, spend a lifetime of learning how psychology works into people beginning to like you and to buy into you, because it matters. And so, because you could do the opposite and push them off, which happens every single day, happens all the time. I hear it from even our coaches and our team. They'll tell me some things. I'm like, hey, I think you may be you're sandpaper to them right now, and that's going to just completely reverse the effect of what you're trying to accomplish. And so those are and then again, and I don't want to belabor the point, but that's I believe the foundational pieces is having the heart to want to just have community with them, commune with them. And I'll tell you another one. If you can play a role in connecting them to someone that they need to know to help grow their business as well, and you can begin to be that person who's kind of viewed as a connector. I have a friend of mine who's is actually a neighbor, who's just a serial entrepreneur. He's never worked for another person in his life. And but in my area, in my community, everyone jokes around. They call him the mayor, because he has such a heart for wanting to connect people. And so he's created local community by knowing a lot of people, and then also it's kind of dubbed on top of that with being, Facebook and Instagram, of connecting a lot of people. He'll say, hey, I'm going to be at the X amount, coffee shop or Cracker Barrel, whatever. Come join me. We'll have 5 or 10 people just to randomly come join him because people just want to be around him. Well, that's what people buying into you is all like, because he just can't, and he's got nothing to sell to these folks. He just wants to connect with them. And so I think when you have some type of appetite for that to some degree, all the other stuff that we have to do in the process of getting clients and serving clients and helping them grow, whatever, becomes exceedingly easier, because they bought into you. They care about you, your family. You care about their family, and so on. So I digress, but hopefully you get the point.
Yeah. Nice. I like it. Reminds me of, I know like when you do copywriting, there's like a copywriting hack that I'm going to say on steroids, where most people will write copy, they write something for their website, they run an ad, and they want the person listening or the person reading to understand, right? And in
Yep.
reality, the hack is that you want them to feel understood, right?
Yep.
It's totally different approach. So when you're speaking to somebody, like what is it? Most people are listening to respond versus listening to listening. So when you say that, you've really got to genuinely care, you know what I mean? Like it's a real genuine thing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like what is this individual? What is it that they're actually going through? And again,
Yep.
really make them feel understood. And it can the coaching client relationship can happen in record time when somebody just feels that magical connection with you. Is that right? They
Yep.
feel understood.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah. I had a unique thing happen last week that was just, you have these little moments. They're like a badge of honor. I had a client, I want to say I coached them for about 3.5 years. She has a partner and the business partner in what they do. And they called, they got an unfortunate law. I don't coach them anymore because I'm not as client focused because of the coaching network that we're building. And but she called and said they had an issue going on. They're having some legal issues with somebody, and just would I be willing to give them a couple of minutes? And it's been a little while since I talked to them, and but one of them said, "Hey, just so that you know, like you've been in our heads so much that everything that comes up around here, we always say, well, what would BJ say, or what would BJ do?" Which is like a huge compliment, right? You're like, I'm like, oh man, that means a ton. But that also is, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I am wanting to encourage someone who's listening to be able to say, sometimes you don't always know, but that moment right there, I helped influence, and by the way, we helped them grow significantly a business that they didn't understand how to grow a business or even run one. But they're at the place now where they bought into, fortunately, me and the things that I've said, and certainly helped them. But to get that kind of feedback, it takes a lot of work and an effort to hear that, because you genuinely truly care. Even physically, if you're at coffee, dinner, lunch, a networking event, I mean, there's nothing worse than when you're talking to an individual and you're attempting to connect with them, and you're at a networking event and you both got your cocktail and your little plate in your hand, whatever, but yet you can see their eyes go past your ear and they're looking for somebody else. And it happens all the time. It's like it's a horrible thing to do, but it happens all the time. So even how you connect with them and how you lean in and how you're listening and your posture upon how you're, listening to what they're saying, all affects a relationship. And so studying all that and really wanting to learn how to do that, to do it well out of sincerity and authenticity, I think is going to go miles for you.
Yeah, love it. Actually, you know what? Ironically, I sent literally an email today, my daily email, and it was it's about leadership and influence, and it was like level 1 is leadership of self, level 2 is leadership of another person, and then it's leadership of a group, and then it's leadership when you're not there, which is what you just described. What would BJ do? And then it's legacy, and then it's when you're dead. So BJ, before you go, man, like, be careful, right? Touch wood wherever
That's
you are.
right.
That's
right.
But that's the ultimate, right? Like Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs' fingerprints are all over Apple.
Yep.
Winston Churchill, his quotes are all over the place. Albert Einstein. Anyways, very cool. So there you go. Well done. What would BJ do? I like it. Hey, so so let's talk about like managing a client relationship, right? So like how do you, like in that, maybe that instance, or how do you hold them accountable to a process, and what's your magic there?
Yeah. So early on, and for some that are, if you're just getting into the coaching game or you're newer to it, the accountability or holding others accountable I don't know if it's necessarily a challenge. I think the challenge really actually is about how to do it. And when you don't know how to do it, that becomes a challenge. Well, I think what I've discovered and learned over the years, when you do not have a well-defined plan, it goes back to the very first thing you asked, everything starts with a plan. When you don't have a well-defined plan for them and they don't have a well-defined plan for them, well, kind of hard to hold them accountable to anything that is not well-defined. And remember, business owners, entrepreneurs who are amazing. I mean, we look at all we have because of amazing entrepreneurs. However, the flip side of that is they can wake up every single day with a different idea. And it is our job as a guide to kind of bring them back to the center to go, great idea, but we've already established the plan. If we don't follow the plan, then you're just kicking results down the field because you woke up with different inspiration today. And so when you have, and of course in the system that we use with the software, having that alphabetized step-by-step approach based upon the strategies that we're using, that is the plan. And you get to show them that, and I have found at least, most people love it because half of them don't have a plan. They don't know what they should be working on. And now you're giving them one. And this is the important part. When you have the plan, and Karl, if you were my client and I'm going to coach you, I'd say, and we're beginning the relationship. I say, all right, Karl, so here is our plan. Now, this is somewhat flexible, meaning as the months go by, new things may come up that we want to make some adjustments. But here's what this is going to do for me to help you. There are going to be days, I can promise you right now, that I'm going to have to say, Karl, listen, I love you. However, I'm going to bring you back to what we both agreed that we were going to do to help you grow your business. If you do not stick to the roadmap here, then in a few months, you're going to say, hey, BJ, we're not getting any results. And I'm going to say, well, Karl, you keep wanting to do different things. And remember, we have a plan. And so it's constantly bringing them back. And what I have discovered too is that maybe not everybody, but most people love that, because at the end of the day, we all, to some degree, want to be led. We all want the accountability thing. I mean, without it, it's just so hard to see through the tough times. And by tough, I don't mean just tough financially. The tough times where there's a lot going on, there's a lot of pulling at you, a lot of distractions or whatever. And so when you have that voice that's going, hey, Karl, listen, I love you. You got to come back to the plan and get this done. Otherwise, you're not going to do what you've said that you are wanting to do. And you got to stick to that. And it doesn't mean you're rude. It doesn't mean you're setting the tone in the very beginning, because I'm going to tell you as my client, there will be times that I'm going to be a little firm with you with grace and kindness to say, I am here as a part of your world right now to help you succeed in this manner. And I would be doing yourself an injustice if I'm not honest with you, brutally honest, because I have a saying that says, to be unclear is to be unkind, and I don't want to be unkind. And so you're sabotaging yourself if we don't follow the plan. And so it just setting the tone and then helping them, letting them see it, letting them feel it, dramatically shifts everything. I'm not saying it's perfect, because we're all humans and it's just easy to get sidetracked and get distracted. But that's what a plan, and you're using it visually every week, whatever your cadence is with them, and you're looking at it, you're reviewing it, you're pointing to it, you're circling it, you're saying, this is what we agreed to. It's like that whole strategy can just shift the process. And when they're really buying into you, going back to our earlier comment, and you've added value, you've done all this stuff all along the journey, most of the time, just like my friend who said, you kind of are in our head and what would you do? They're kind of looking to you to say, so what do we do next? And they're leaving it up to you. They're trusting you. And that's a massive badge of honor as a strategist and someone who's interacting with helping the business community.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. So tell me, what would you say? Okay, so let's sum her up. And you've been doing this a long time, and I want you to try and keep this. I'm going to give you a 10-word limit that you may go over if necessary.
Probably. Probably.
Actually, you know what? I wanted to speak to what you said a second ago. I was thinking that I just lost. But when I think back to my hockey days, without question, all my favorite, if I list, I can't count how many hockey coaches I had over the years. The ones that I look back the fondest with were hard. You know what I mean? Like at first, debatably didn't even like them. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they're just too hard. But really what it is, I think they see something. The best coach for me is somebody who sees something special in you and wants to pull it out. And then the way that they pull it out, not by going, oh, wow, you're doing great, go home.
Correct.
It's do the extra miles. So with your clients, the way that I frame it, you got to be dad, not best bud. And
that's right.
As I say that, I think everybody can pick up what we're putting down. But my question is, right? Your question, I bet, BJ, is that are you legitimately being dad, right? With hard lines, railroad tracks. So anyways, okay, so final question, 10 words or less, the number one thing that you've learned about business coaching over the years.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, and it's just consistency. It really is. It just, you're going to try to hold me to 10 words, but good, bad, and indifferent, good days, bad days. You just got to be consistent to learn. That's just, I don't know any other way to do it.
Yeah, consistency beats talent. The end. Mic drop.
Yeah,
right?
It just does.
There we go. All right, BJ. We appreciate BJ McKay and his best friend there. Every
there
time
you
I
go.
say that. Awesome. BJ, really appreciate your time, your magic. The coaches all listening, super appreciate you. And keep kicking butt, man. God bless.
Hey, thanks so much, Carl.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.